Before I talk about Incredibles 2, let's show some love for Bao, the short movie. This right here is the type of representation that Asian people need. That the representation that I was talking about in early videos, right? It's only 5 minutes. It's only 5 minutes. But as an Asian audience member, it affected me. Unlike anything that I have ever seen before from Hollywood. Again, quality over quantity. Like the moment it started, I was like, oh, here we go. Pixar, I already know you're gonna fuck me up. Like, I already know I'm gonna be fucked up emotionally. I fell for that trick again. Like, it got me bawling, tearing up. I'm gonna give Pixar Bao a 9 out of 10. So now, let's review Incredibles 2. You know, the first Incredibles movie is, without a doubt, one of the best superhero movie ever made. One of the best animation ever made. So, you know, the expectation was off the roof for this sequel. I mean, 14 years. Think about it. It took 14 years to make this sequel. So I know on the internet there's a lot of jokes about like, oh, I have to wait 14 years. And, you know, like, you better leave your kids at home because they're not going to get it and blah, blah, blah. Like, but when I watched this movie, it amazed me. It surprises me that we got this sequel 14 years later. I mean, something like this would have taken me like, I don't know, 100 years. That's an exaggeration, but 50 years. The fact that I make this movie in 14 years, that's impossible. That's incredible. When it comes to the level of details in animation, Disney Pixar is second to none. I mean, the animation is so good that when the characters are not on the screen and you're looking at like buildings, you're looking at houses and like, you know, landscapes, it looks scarily realistic. It looked photorealistic. That is amazing. And the reason why I say scarily is because, you know, when you think about it, really stop and think about it. If this is the direction that we're going, right? If this is where we're going with the technology, with animation and, you know, CGI is constantly being, you know, upgraded and being, you know, made better, sooner or later, we're not gonna need actors anymore. You know, we can just create one from thin air. So Incredibles 2 pick up right after The Incredibles, and the movie never felt like a sequel. It felt like a continuation of the last story. Well, that is kind of a sequel, but you know what I mean? Like, I could watch Incredibles and Incredibles 2, like, you know, on one sitting, and it would feel like one movie. Just like how you could watch Rogue One and then New Hope as, you know, like one extended story. And the movie is great. I mean, is it better than The Incredibles? Listen, apple and oranges in this case. You know, I would say that almost every aspect of this sequel, maybe other than the villain, which we would get to later, is either just as good or better than Incredibles. That's just my opinion. I mean, the animation is better, as expected, and the performances are great. I mean, voice actor, they don't get a lot of credit because, like, you know, they're not doing a lot of acting. Watching this movie, I had a feeling that these actors, they actually put in effort, they put in work, and they were trying to do their best, especially Holly Hunter, because her performance carried this movie. She was the highlight of this movie. Mrs. Incredibles, Elastic Girl, she is the best part of this movie. I was a bit worried that this movie is going to be a rehash of the last one, and for the first half of this movie, that is true, but because the circumstances are different, the characters have grown, and they tackle different themes as well. So even though the story is very similar, I didn't really have a problem because number one, it was so good, and number two, it felt fresh, like familiar, but fresh, if that make any sense. There's this new character, and her name is Voy, and her powers is to create like portals, and every time she is involved in an action sequence, it is some of the most imaginative, some of the best looking, some of the most exciting thing that you're going to see in cinema this year. I was on the edge of my seat the whole time. The action is just so fun and full of characters moment and full of heart. It's so good. Like, why can't actions be more like this? But for a movie with amazing action set pieces, if I have to make like a top 10 moments of Incredibles 2, I would say maybe only 2 of them are action scenes. The other 3 would be conversation. There would be character moments. It would be Mr. Incredible and Elastigirl just having a conversation. There's this one scene where they're in bed, and they're just talking about sort of different ideologies and how they wanted to raise their kid, and it's just so well written. This is a kid movie, and yet it tackles some of the most mature themes that any adults could think of. Now let's talk about the villain of the story, Screenslaver. They had a good concept with this character, and I could see where they were trying to take this character and what themes they were trying to evoke, and what they were trying to say with this character. I could see all of that, but number one is it is way too predictable. Like, the moment that character shows up, I was like, oh, that's the villain. Number two, the motivation is nowhere near as compelling as Syndrome in the first movie. So the villain is not as good as the first Incredibles movie, which is Syndrome. And Jack, whoo, this kid, man, he is just too much. Jack is just too much. In the end, Incredibles 2 kind of blew me away. It is a damn near perfect family movie, and I'm gonna give Incredibles 2 a 9 out of 10. Definitely go check out this movie. It is one of this year's very best. Hey guys, if you got a chance to see Incredibles 2, let me know in the comment section how you feel about it. Did you like it? Did you not like it? And if you enjoyed my review, hit the like button and subscribe. You want to see more reviews like this. And with that being said, I'll see you soon. Aw, come on. Son of a bitch.